Green morning, green afternoon, green evening to all our brothers and sisters across the globe. We hope you're taking care of your health, your wellness, you're taking care of your family, your neighbors, your community, your society. Ladies and gentlemen, post-pandemic, there is no competition, it's collaboration. All of us, we have to do networking. We got to be taking care of each other the best possible way, whatever we can do. Let the entire humanity come closer, nearer, talk to each other, live with each other, think about each other, help out each other, whatever best we can do. So, like every Sunday, where we get the non-resident Indian diaspora for us, sharing their vision with us, because the people, those have gone outside, those have gone abroad to different countries, they pick up a lot of new things from there, and they wish to bring that and share to empower the education ecosystem, our skills, our competencies, our capabilities, whatever we can take into consideration. Non-resident Indians, our Indian diaspora brothers and sisters, they are very keen to support the entire education ecosystem in India. Last week, we had Global Multitasking Teachers Part 1. Today, we are going to have Part 2. Now, besides teacher, you got to be mentor also, you got to be counselor also, you got to be taco savvy also. At the same time, you can be a neuro coach, you can be cellular health coach, you can be functional medicinal coach, you can have reverse aging coach, you can have dietary coach. I would say there are a number of tasks because lot of people, बहुत सारे लोग abroad, they have lost their parents, and lots of parents, they have lost their children. So scenario is such that we got to support each other the best possible way. Population is also shrinking, in a couple of countries, if you see. And at the same time, it's the right time for India, our younger, vibrant generation. They can fill the gaps, they can take on some assignments. ये लोग बाहर जाकर और उस सारे वहाँ के एजुकेशन सिस्टम को, वहाँ के बिजनेस सिस्टम को और वहाँ के पूरे जो इकोनॉमी है उसके इकोसिस्टम में सपोर्ट कर सकते हैं. The time is, let's support each other the best possible way. We extend a very warm welcome to Dr. PRIYA VISWESWARAN ma'am. She is joining us all the way from Texas, United States, from the Houston, and is a part of our series, Making Education Relevant and Preparing Global Educator. Let's move on this journey further where we get her expertise. So ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of ICSI, International Chamber for Service Industry, we extend a very warm welcome to all of you. Do become the part of the movement. Do become the part of the campaign. Let's rejuvenate. Let's revive. Let's repackage everything. If India has to become 5 trillion economy, we got to empower our education ecosystem, our skill competencies and capabilities system, and at the same time, services sector during the pandemic has also done phenomenal. We got to further augment and develop our services sector. Soon, people, those are interested to know more, and they are interested to take some assignment in the neighboring countries, particularly in the ASEAN region. When I talk about, we are going to have wonderful deliberations that is coming soon, India ASEAN Celebrations 2022. There are 10 beautiful countries, if you understand, right from Myanmar to Laos to Cambodia to Singapore to Malaysia to Thailand to Indonesia to Philippines and Vietnam. All Brunei, all the 10 countries, they are so beautiful, and there are tremendous opportunities for all of us to package something with them. Some of the teacher educators, you can have online programs from here to Southeast Asia, like we are proposing for Latin America, Central Asia, and at the same time for African continent, and of course the Middle East as well. Let's work on to, and whatever best we can do together, Let's plan it out and support the entire ecosystem. Our chamber is very happy and very proud that way back in 1994, we brought India's first finishing school that was set up by our chamber ICSI in 1994. It was a brick and mortar. It was a finishing school on ground, which people enjoyed. And there were lots of programs which we have offered to children, to teachers. And it was for teachers' capacity building and youth empowerment through the Global Finishing School. Now, the post-pandemic, everything has gone digital. Now, when we talk about digital, we have to take into considerations that now the technology is going to play a very important role for all of us. And sooner we adopt this technology, better it's going to be for all of us. That's the way we have to take into consideration. We got to plan it out, we got to develop it, and we have to see that we promote everything the best possible way, which is supported by technology. And of course, children have to take care of mental wellness, physical wellness, and social wellness. And their parents, they will take the professional wellness and economic wellness. Now, making education and skills relevant, preparing global teachers, our entire team of the ICSI, along with the dignitaries like Dr. PRIYA, we all are working hard how basically to give soft skill, life skills, technical skills, how to bring in wellness and sustainability for happy living and happy growth of everybody. There got to be a project-based learning. There got to be a real-world learning. There got to be a learning through nature. And we have to manage our water resources, waste to resource management, climate change, carbon neutral. And at the same time, as the world is becoming a global village, we got to understand different cultures and cultural diversity and got to respect them. And of course, immersive learning experiences. So ladies and gentlemen, your creativity, your curiosity, your communication skills, your critical thinking, your collaborative skills, and your commitment skills, all of them, when they come together, they'll bring different kind of a confidence in you, and you can be a part of change management globally. Any of the institutions, whether in India or abroad, any school, college, university, ITI, polytechnic, vocational training centers, sector skill councils, and other verticals whatsoever we have got in the education and skill arena, our chamber would be more than happy if there can be a physics lab, chemistry lab, bio lab, and there can be a computer lab. Why not to have an inspirational lab where there's a happiness, there's a song, dance, music, and joyful learning, exploring the best possible potential of yours, and of course, other matters they can be taken care of. We are very proud that on the World Teacher Day on 5th of October, we have launched from our chamber Rethinking Tourism Post-Pandemic, research and compilation work in the form of a book. It's available on our website. Anybody can download free of cost after coming on icsiindia.in. Please come over there. It's going to be helpful to everybody. It has got 15 chapters. And here is the web portal homepage of ICSI. And right over here, if you see, it's written download ebook. You just press over there and get the entire book to yourself. So ladies and gentlemen, whatever your mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. Let's come together. Let's make education and skills relevant. And with these words, join me in extending a very warm welcome to Dr. PRIYA VISWESWARAN ma'am, who had been very kind to spare her valuable time. And she's sharing lots of vision with all of us whenever she can spare the time, her valuable time, her treasuresome time, and she can be with all of us. With these words, we extend once again a very warm welcome from the heart. That is ma'am, who is joining us all the way from United States. It's early morning over there. And you can well imagine what a commitment Sunday morning, if you give a time to somebody, It means you are linked in a very passionate, professional, and of course, pragmatic way. With these words, we extend a very warm welcome to Dr. Priya Visweswaran, ma'am. Floor is yours, the world is yours, and the audience is yours. Let's pick up some more threads from you where we left last week, ma'am. I would request you to share your vision. Please go ahead. Your mic is muted, ma'am. Your mic is muted.
Thank you so much for that wonderful, wonderful introduction and for all your many kindnesses and for this wonderful opportunity to participate with you in uplifting all of our brothers and sisters in India and our teachers, especially, who are our Indian national treasure and resource. Thank you very much, Major Dr. Gulshan Sharma ji. Thank you to Chitra ji for this wonderful, wonderful opportunity to participate with you every Sunday. It is an honor and a privilege to be here, and it is a very, very exciting time in the growth of Mother India. It's a great time to be alive. It's a great time. It's a wonderful, great, fabulous time to be a teacher in India. And we are looking at all the transferable skills that a teacher has in the teaching profession that a teacher develops, that can be transferred to multiple different professions, that can be held simultaneously as the teaching profession. And these are ways of making our teachers more than easily not only acceptable, but far exceed the existing teacher pool here in the United States, for example, or in any other country. I just want to start with a very, very interesting example, and this is something I'm going to talk about at length next week, and this is the adult education area of teaching profession. So the adult education area of the teaching profession, it actually includes those things that are not taught in school that we should be teaching in school, things like health literacy, monetary literacy, relationship literacy, and so on and so forth. These are what we said we would equip our teachers when we went over the different coaching opportunities. So in the United States, there is actually a big program for adult literacy. And I believe, according to UNESCO statistics, there are 778 million illiterate adults, which means at least 778, it could be more like double of that. If you look at, financial literacy, if you look at health literacy and so on, it could be even much more than double of that, because most people don't have life literacy skills. So I will also give you an example of just over 60 population. If you look at the countries that have people over the age of 60, the #1 country is China, with a population approaching 180 to 200 million adults over the age of 60. And the second country, surprise, surprise, is India, with a population of 100 plus million adults over the age of 60. And the United States has only 50 million, but so on and so forth. So this in terms of adults over the age of 60, it is China first and India second. And the one thing that is striking is people over the age of 60, many of them do not have what is called digital literacy. They do not have what is called digital resilience. That is where their knowledge is resilient to digital advancements taking their jobs. And in India, many people over the age of 60 are also retired, but they're still alive and they're still living in the modern world. And so the opportunity to educate these people, not just in India, but all over the world, is again, huge opportunity. And we were talking about how in the healthcare area, we could have online care provided by our teachers who have many of the overlapping skill sets for healthcare and elder care at home using online tools the last time we spoke. But I'm also very, very excited about the possibility of providing lifelong education to all of our populations. Many countries have what is called a lifelong learning or lifelong education policy. And what this is that adults at every stage in life are brought back into the education system and given education, new skills and education and training. And particularly those adults who are formerly incarcerated, so people who are in jail. Why are they in jail in the first place? Because their education and their skills has run out of giving them the competency to hold a job. And here in America, the problem is not that, I mean, unemployment is not a problem because there are more jobs than there are people here. But even so, the people, people don't have the skills to take those jobs. And so that's when you get people committing crime when their skill set is run out and the jobs are, even the lowest job is at a higher level than their maximum skill set. Then they turn to crime in order to put food on the table for the next meal for themselves or for their family. And these are the people that get incarcerated. So there are programs here to start by getting the incarcerated people back to a certain level of education, literacy, and start raising their level of knowledge and awareness. In this digital global economy in which we live, lifelong learning, lifelong education has to be a significant part of the Department of Education's policy making. I believe India has a policy, I haven't seen it, but there are other countries like Bangladesh that have a much more visionary policy even than we have, from what I'm understanding, from the materials I'm reading around this. I will give you much more detailed presentation next week on this, but I'm just giving you a taste of what there is to come. So if we take that there are 166 million or 180 million Chinese elders over the age of 60 and 100 plus million elders over the age of 60 in India, so about 200, almost 250,000 to 1/3 of billion. 250 million to 1/3 of a billion people that have to be educated. And you start off with digital literacy. Just think of the number of teachers, Indian teachers who can teach Chinese elders English language, Indian teachers who can teach Chinese elders digital literacy. Okay, Indian teachers who can teach Indian elders digital literacy, Indian teachers who can teach Indian elders English. Right here, we are talking about millions of jobs. And these are not traditional teacher jobs, but they're very much in the teaching profession. And adult learning has quite an expanded and a different skill set than teaching students in school, where we are preparing them towards a very pointed endpoint, which is an exam and the performance in that exam. But for adult literacy, it is an adult education, it is considerably different. Now, I have an idea and a proposal to make to Professor Dr. Gulshan Sharma ji. I think the Digital University of India must be utilized to educate, to implement this lifelong education policy of the government of India once it is created in a more, it already exists, but it needs to be fluffed up a little bit more, and what the goals and the aims and the objectives are. And the reason for the importance of this, I can give you in a very abstract terms right now, but I will have more statistics and actual numbers for you the next week when we meet. The reason for this is the more educated the older people are, the more likely that the younger people will be allowed to obtain a better and more education. And the teachers, they have to be educated as well. They have to have ongoing learning and training as well. In their summer holidays, that's the time to implement the teacher education. And once the teachers have a much higher level of understanding and education, then the students will also be lifted up. So in all developed countries, they start there and it filters down. And you can also do it from the bottom up, but nobody knows at the top what is the metric by which you're measuring this education. So, for example, if you start digital literacy at the school level, none of the teachers who are teaching it or the people who are setting the syllabus, it is then it has to go from here rather than from up down, top down. I think top down is a much better approach. And I would just, instead of spending a huge amount of time trying to create our own, of course, it's important to create our own policy in India, but I would not hesitate to copy if other countries have already created this, syllabus or curriculum or goals or objectives. I would take from US, I would take from Bangladesh, I would take from countries all over the world that have an existing, well fluffed out, ongoing education or lifelong learning policy, because this is going to ultimately determine the outcome of the future of India's citizens, our young people. I'm also wanting to highlight here that in a number of these educational groups of adults who have come together, either the standard setting by United Kingdom or by UNESCO or United Nations, I don't see Indian names at all anywhere. And that is a cause of great worry for me, because what that is telling me is not only are we not involved in policy setting, we don't even know of these activities that are happening at an international level. And who's responsible for that if we are not there? Who's responsible for that for India if we are not there at that table? And we more than deserve to be at those tables. And we have been invited, but our people are not there. So I'm respectfully and most humbly submitting to you that in all of the bodies that create global educational and United Nations Development Program type goals, we need our people, our Indians, to be sitting at all those tables so that we can understand from where they are coming, what all factors they're taking into account, and how to filter that and bring it to our country, to our people, so that our children don't get left behind. We have always been a culture that has looked to the past, but I'm imploring, beseeching, and begging you, let us look to the future. Let us look to a bright and successful future for our children, because only when our children are healthy, financially and digitally resilient, and have good, strong families and relationships, will they be able to take care of us as we age. If we keep our children in the fear and in the looking up to us our entire lifetimes, they are not going to be able to provide for us or take care of us. Now, we don't do anything for that particular outcome, but we must open it up for our children so that they are equal to and not less than anybody else's children or anybody else in the world. By our putting a lid on it, we are making it more hard for our children to participate as equals in the rest of the world. It's not impossible, because they're good and great children, they're coming up. But we could make it a lot easier for them, is my humble and most respectful suggestion.
Thank you,
With
ma'am.
that, I will, yes, sir.
Ma'am, thank you very much for such a valuable inputs which you have given. And
Thank
next
you.
week, we plan on the adult education. Today,
Yes.
our focus is going to be what we discussed last time, and we left it midway.
We will continue, sir.
What
Yes.
I wish to request you, let's take, there is a sizable population of B.Ed teachers in India. They have
Yes,
taken the qualification, they have
Yes, sir.
finished. They are doing some part-time jobs, some tuitions and other things, whatever they can do. Because
Yes, sir.
post-pandemic, the scenario is such, because a lot of people have lost their job, a lot of people have lost their opportunities. People are still scared, and they have got inhibitions that
Yes.
like coronavirus pandemic, something again may not come back.
Yes.
So keeping that scenario in mind,
Yes, sir.
can we just focus on, ma'am, today, in continuation to the last week, that
Yes.
what additional qualities children
Yes.
should pick up? They should not
Yes.
think only becoming a teacher. They should not think only teaching one particular subject. Rather,
Yes.
when we are talking about multitasking,
Yes.
would you be kind enough? Let's take some live examples that
Yes, sir.
certain European countries, or for that matter, America, other places where
Yes.
elderly couple are there, and nearby some school institutions are also there, and
Yes.
there could be a multi-mode systems. One is people are physically in India and
Yes.
digitally they are giving empowerment and they're
Yes,
giving
sir.
that particular service. Second part, they
Yes.
physically move to those countries wherever
Yes, sir.
teachers are needed. Third
Yes, sir.
part, which is very important, which you do a value addition, that is, besides academics, what other skills they should pick up so
Absolutely.
that they can look after elderly couple, they can give them
Absolutely.
all those services. Kindly enlighten us on that.
Okay. I will do the best I can, sir, because we are continuing where we left last time. So there is a certain material that we have already that we are, I could say we have already
We can recapitulate because there are a
into
lot
the
of new
presentation.
people. There are a
Yeah.
lot of new people, ma'am. We can recapitulate, please.
Okay, excellent. We can recapitulate. Then we will start there, sir.
We will
Definitely.
go quickly. We'll go quickly on the
Yes.
previous slides. Correct, ma'am.
Sounds good. So very good, sir. So what do teachers do, right? Do we quickly teach them? Do we know how to quickly learn ourselves and know how to teach it? Do we teach students how to learn? Do we teach them how to manage themselves emotionally and otherwise? And do we inspire them to reach for the stars, even if unstructured? Do we listen to them, help them get along, give them what they need to learn, right? There are many things that a teacher does. And their work values are relationships, friendly work that achieves goals in a non-competitive environment. And it's a service definitely to society. Then teachers are achievement oriented, and they know how to utilize the abilities of students, and they know how to bring out the best abilities, and they teach the students how to do that in themselves, and achievement orientation. And then the working conditions of compensation, activity, independence, security, variety, and others. In the US government, the Bureau of Labor Statistics says in 2021, the median pay is about $61,800 per year, bachelor's degree requirement. Number of teacher jobs is at least 1 million. The growth is about 5%. And also per year, 77,900 high school teachers. And, ideally high school teachers for mathematics and the science and technology area is a huge demand here in this country. High school teachers have a lot of responsibilities and tasks. They prepare materials and classrooms. They instruct through lectures, discussions, demonstrations. They establish a clear objective, communicate those objectives. They establish and enforce rules for behavior and procedures for maintaining order. They adapt their teaching methods and instructional materials to meet the students' varying needs and interests. They maintain accurate and complete student records as required by law, district policy, and administrative regulations. So here in the US, teachers are monitored, not only at the school level, but at the district level. There is a head of education at every level, at the city level, at the district level, and so on. And that person is actually personally reviewing each teacher's performance. They observe and evaluate students' performance, behavior, social development, and physical health, and they plan and conduct activities for a balanced program of instruction, demonstration, and work time that provides students with opportunities to observe, question, and investigate. They confer with parents or guardians and other teachers to resolve students' behavioral and academic problems. They assign and grade classwork and homework. They prepare, administer, and grade tests and assignments for grades by encouraging them to explore learning opportunities and to persevere with challenging tasks. They use technology. They instruct and monitor students how to use technology. Now I put here the related occupations because the source of this, which is that ONET, for each of these tasks that teachers do, there are occupations that are related to those tasks. In the previous slides, I did not show you those occupations. Here, I'm showing you that each of these tasks that a teacher does has related occupations. They enforce administration policies and rules. They guide and counsel students with adjustments and problems or interests. They meet with other professionals to discuss individual student needs and progress. They prepare and implement remedial programs for students requiring extra help. They meet with parents and guardians to discuss their children's progress and to determine priorities for their children and their resource needs. They prepare objectives and outlines for courses of study following curriculum guidelines or requirements of states and schools. They enforce those policies. Okay, I think we went over that. They confer with other staff members to plan and schedule lessons promoting learning following the curricula. So there is a considerable amount of creativity left to the teacher, how they teach a concept and when they accomplish the teaching and what it is that they do. Teachers give handouts in high school. Sometimes the handouts are given digitally, but all students are receiving the same handout, and it is clearly related to a curriculum in that subject matter that the student has to learn in order to pass a test or an exam to show the proficiency in that subject matter. They collaborate with other people in the field. They prepare reports, they prepare for assigned classes, they show written evidence of preparation upon request of immediate supervisors. They plan and supervise class projects, field trips, visits by guest speakers, other experiential activities, and guide students in learning from these activities. They attend professional meetings, continuing education, teacher training workshops to maintain and improve professional competence. They perform administrative duties, they attend staff meetings, they have inventory of classroom equipment, materials, supplies. Here in America, teachers use their own salary to buy a lot of times these materials, supplies, and all that. They sponsor extracurricular clubs, student organizations, and academic contests. They administer the standardized tests, and they provide disabled students with assistive devices, support technology. So disabled students need more attention, and it's up to the teacher to make sure that that is provided. They have technology skills that they learn, they have to know. Microsoft Word, using Google-based data access and sharing software, cloud-based, including Google, Microsoft, SharePoint, and others. Office suite software like Microsoft, presentation software like PowerPoint, spreadsheet software like Excel, and about 9 other softwares as needed in each job. If it's a high school science teacher or a high school geography teacher, they have other different softwares for each of these professions. The teacher's occupational requirements are they are required to organize, plan, and prioritize work. So they have to cover the calculus syllabus in 1 year's time. Here they actually have 6 months, or they have even 3 months semesters. And so in the 6 months, they have to cover the entire calculus syllabus. They will decide which problems they're going to give examples for, how much of teaching they will do, and how many practice problems the child will do, and then when they will take the test and how they will be graded. All of that decision and that planning is on the teacher. Then they think creatively. They have to develop, design, or create new applications, ideas, relationship systems, and products, including artistic contributions. Training and teaching others, identifying the educational needs of others, developing formal educational or training programs, and teaching or instructing others. Establishing and maintaining interpersonal relationships, developing constructive and cooperative working relationships with others, and maintaining them over time. Communicating with peers, supervisors, or subordinates. Developing objectives and strategies. So these are the long-range objectives. By the end of 11th standard, this child should know everything that at a high school level that they need to know about calculus to apply calculus in simple day-to-day life scenarios or situations as a professional engineer. That might be an objective. Then updating and using relevant knowledge. So there may be new ways to teach calculus. There may be new aspects of calculus that need to be taught. That's up to the teacher that has to learn that and then teach that to the child. Calculus is not an easy subject, so I can say maybe geometry, right? So geometry, there may be new things to learn about geometry. I will give you an example. Previously, all these geometry programs have been about heights and distances, right? So it's about how tall is a building. If you can see the shadow, if the length of the shadow is so much, when it is seen from so-and-so place, or some such problem, right? Now, the new geometry problems will be at what height is a satellite supposed to be situated if it has to connect two cities that are this distance apart, and the maximum angle of the wave is so much. So these kinds, it's all geometry, but the scenario in which it is being used is a very contemporary scenario which cannot even be fathomed 5 or 10 years ago. You have satellites that are available for $200,000 now. Even average people here in America who have savings can buy a satellite. So these are the things. Coaching and developing others. Identifying the developmental needs of others, coaching, mentoring, and otherwise helping others to improve their knowledge or skills. Making decisions and solving problems, analyzing information and evaluating results to choose the best solution and solve these problems, scheduling work and activities, getting information, monitoring processes, materials, or surroundings, identifying objects, actions, or events, working with computers, analyzing data, interpreting the meaning of data for others, resolving conflicts, negotiating, coordinating the work and activities of others, assisting in care for others, including medical attention. So if you have a child with asthma, the teacher has to know everything about the disease. They have to have that child's asthma action plan. So if the child has an acute asthma attack in class, they have to read the asthma plan, and the mother or father would have given them a bag with all the medicines. They have to give the medicine to the child in the class. So obviously that's medical care. All teachers have to know medical care because some students may fall sick, or they have diseases that are common enough that the parent cannot be called from work to take care of this. So the teacher has to take care of it in the classroom. Judging the qualities of objects, services, or people, communicating with people outside the organization, public, government, and so on, evaluating information to determine compliance with standards, administrative duties, teams. This is a huge factor in why teachers are extremely successful in the corporate world. I told you last week that I can give you at least 3 examples of teachers who are very successful in the corporate world. 2 of them are with a company that I have recently started working with. They were teachers. One of them started off as a school teacher, then became kind of a supervisor of teachers, and then she studied adult education, and then she entered the corporate world where she became a trainer for different educational software. And some of this educational software was about intrapersonal analysis. So things like DISC profile and other profiles, you go in there and you put in, these are my personal, likes, dislikes, this is how I would behave in certain situations. And then that software gives you the full analysis of who you are as a person and where you function best, where you function worst, how somebody has to supervise you. All of these things, the software has all that data. And what she did was, not only did she train the users of the software and how to get the most out of the software, she started training the people in the company how to get the most out of the software. And so, she became very successful there. And now she's sort of the director of training of all adult students for a particular sales and marketing funnel called a quiz funnel. There's another man that is in that same company. He's the chief marketing officer. So after being a high school, not only a religious studies and English teacher, he also taught sports like football, basketball, and baseball. And then he entered into digital marketing. And so he taught himself that whole thing. So the thing about the beauty about being a teacher is when you learn how to teach, you're actually learning how to learn. You're learning how to learn efficiently, quickly, and really well. And so you're able to teach yourself things really well as well. And these are the invisible skills that teachers have. And he used that to teach himself internet marketing. He got given advertisement budgets of millions of dollars, and over 12 years he transformed himself as a social media marketing expert, and now works for the same company as their chief marketing officer. Two teachers, two totally different paths. One is the director of training of all of the students. One is a chief marketing officer, but they started off as high school teachers. And they're making in the $150,000 to $200,000 range per year, which is significantly above a teacher's salary. The reason I'm sharing this with you is there are many ways in which the teaching profession's skill sets can be repurposed or simultaneously utilized along with teaching profession. I'm not saying give up the teaching profession. The teaching profession is something worthy of every human being's respect and admiration. It is the greatest profession. It is the one profession in which the results are not immediately visible, but it is one of the greatest contribution to nation building, as one of our students said in a previous ceremony that we had. So coming back to the presentation, this developing and building teams is what makes teachers extremely successful in the corporate world. And when the Great Resignation started during this pandemic, a lot of teachers left their jobs because they didn't want to continue in an environment where they couldn't hug the students or they couldn't have classrooms and they had to learn how to use technology. Now they're teaching their students on Zoom. The students are sick, their family members are sick, the progress is slow or not okay. Another teacher example, she didn't want to work in that environment. She taught yoga and physical activity to elementary school students. She came out and she's a very successful copywriter, making $100 an hour or so when she works. So what I'm trying to say here is that the teaching profession is one of the most adaptable professions to change and to growth. And the reason for that is when you teach others, you know how you learn yourself how to learn. And so that is the invisible benefit or perk of that teaching profession. They're also required to know education and training, English language, psychology, this is very important, human behavior and performance, how to get the best out of students. Here they don't ever scold usually students, they don't give punishment because punishment is a big deterrence to education. And then scaring, and when you invoke fear or terror in a student's heart or mind or their brain, then all of the genius part of the brain shuts down. And one of the most important things I would say that it is there in our Dakshinamurti Stotram written by Sri Adi Shankara is that every human being in every human being is present greatness. In every human being is present greatness. And so as a teacher, what is the job of the teacher is to make sure we don't shut that genius off by terrorizing a child. So psychology is a huge part of it. What is making this child not do okay? Or why is the child always distracted? Or why is the child looking so sad or depressed? Is the child sick? Is there a problem in the family? They do all that here to the extent that they know to do. Computers and electronics, they need to know customer and personal service, including evaluation of the student satisfaction. Always they have feedback on teaching, on teachers. Public safety and security, this is important. Mathematics, sociology, and anthropology. This is depending on where the child or student is coming from. I attended a class at C Camp, I remember in Bengaluru, and there was a girl student from Kashmir. She was wearing the hijab. This was in person, and she was wearing the hijab and she had a very different, and when she came, she was actually positively petrified. She was so scared because she didn't know who we are or how, she felt like an alien in the company of other Indians. And then opportunities were given to her to express herself and people cheered her on and everybody said how lucky they were to know her and meet her. And she blossomed before our very eyes into a much more trusting, happy, and very, very academically exceedingly well-performing student. So these kinds of things, the history and origin, these are also important, and teachers have all these skills, right? These are the skills that they need. So this is, I think, around where we stopped last week. What countries need the most teachers in the world? You can see Tanzania has only one teacher for 218 students. The ideal number of students in a class is between 15 and 20. Most classrooms in India have 30 to 60 students, but the ideal number is no more than 15 actually per classroom. So this is just something to keep in mind. Tanzania, Solomon Islands, Sierra Leone, look at the number of students they have for a teacher. It's quite a lot at very high levels. But you will see that even in the US, I mean, there are so many teachers that are needed. There are schools without high school teachers for mathematics or for computers or for economics or whatever subject it is that needs to be taught. And these are the poorer areas where the children come from poorer families, and the district has to make do with the taxpayer money to employ the teachers, because all education in the US is free and everybody can go to school. So that these are called the public school systems, right? So all children have a right to free education, but it depends on the district where the children are. If they're in a poor neighborhood, their parents have low-paying jobs, and they're all living in a poorer neighborhood, then the district may not have the money to hire a high school computer teacher or a high school economics teacher or psychology teacher. These are all optional subjects in high school that students can learn. Teachers have a great ability to speak well orally. They have to understand when people are communicating words, what they're actually trying to say. Then they have deductive reasoning, apply general rules to specific problems to produce answers that make sense. They have to speak clearly. Speech clarity is imperative. Speech recognition, written comprehension, problem sensitivity, that is sense when something is likely to go wrong, and maybe even preemptively put a solution or resolution in place. Written expression, they need to be able to see things close. They need to have fluency of ideas. Inductive reasoning, this is the ability to combine pieces of information to form general rules or conclusions. That is finding a relationship among seemingly unrelated events. So for example, let us say the teacher has an asthma action plan and the child is having an acute asthma attack. Then the teacher may have to look up and see whether the ozone exposure that day is high, or whether there is a lot of dust or pollen in the weather report, and then tell the student or the parent, okay, we've given all the medicines, but the child doesn't get better in 30 minutes or an hour. We would like you to come and pick up the child because he or she is not doing well because outside there's ozone. And so what is this inductive reasoning? They put together a few pieces and they're able to come up with a rule. Information ordering, the ability to arrange things or actions in a certain order or pattern according to a specific set of rules. This is again, it's actually in the teaching environment, but it could be in any sort of environment where once they know how to do it in the teaching environment, then they can do it in any other environment. Originality, the ability to come up with unusual or clever ideas to develop creative ways to solve a problem. Category flexibility, generate or use different sets of rules for combining or grouping things in different ways, right? So maybe there's a rule that, you have this normal curve, and maybe the last 5% on each side you exclude, right, in mathematics. And so then maybe in a test, the students are performing and you use a normal curve to put their results, and the 5% that are too good and the 5% that are too bad you exclude when you come up with the average. So that is applying a theoretical mathematical concept to a practical situation in the classroom. So that is category flexibility. Far vision, mathematical reasoning, using right mathematical models or formula to solve a problem. Memorization, selective attention, that is just concentrate on one task without getting distracted no matter what sort of stuff is going on. They should be able to teach, speak well. They should be able to actively listen, which means when someone is talking and saying this, and this, then they're understanding what they're trying to say, and they're actually, okay, I must make sure I understand whether they're trying to say this or this, and they're making notes, and their mind is actively engaging with the material that somebody is presenting. So active listening is one of the key core fundamental requirements of very solid knowledge, but also accelerated learning. Learning strategies. So what are the strategies? Not everything is a slide like this that is boring, dull like this. There are pictures, there may be videos. There are like little breaks that you take in the classroom for movement, or you show them some examples. Different kinds of strategies can be used to imprint the knowledge fully in the child's mind. Reading comprehension, that means they give them a paragraph and they read everything and they understand, oh, this is what they're trying to say, right? Critical thinking, using logic and reasoning to identify the strengths and weaknesses of alternative solutions, conclusions, and approaches to problems. So I should give you an example of critical thinking. Yes. So let us say you're the manager in a company. I gave you the example last week of this lady who was hired by Hewlett Packard to write their user manual for their computer, right? She was an English teacher, and then she'd gone to China to teach English. And she was the daughter of a distant relative of ours, as I'd mentioned last time. So imagine you're the manager that needs somebody to write a manual, a user's manual for a computer, right? And who is the person that already has the skill that will come to your company? Obviously, in another company, if they've written a user's manual for a computer, that person can be hired by you. But if you don't have access to somebody like that, or you've tried to find somebody and you haven't found somebody, then how do you create a person for that job? Then you break down the requirements of the job. They should they should write very good English as the single most important part of the job requirement. Then they should understand technical words and phrases. They should be able to take collaboratively, cooperatively input from all the technical departments to create this user's manual. Who is the kind of person that has all these skills? Then you come up with the English teacher, right? Sorry.
Take some water, madam. Take some water.
Yeah, it's just some dust. So the critical thinking of the manager at Hewlett Packard is what helped him or her hire the English teacher to write the manual, right? So that is an example of critical thinking. You write all the requirements of the job, and then you find the person that meets the requirements. They may not be in the identical job that you're trying to hire for. That is the critical thinking part. So using logic and reasoning to identify the strengths and weaknesses of alternative solutions and approaches to problems. Monitoring the performance of yourself, other individuals and organizations, social perceptiveness, judgment and decision-making. Look at all their skills. These teachers, look at all the skills you all have. Writing, active learning, complex problem solving, coordination, time management, negotiation, service orientation, actively looking for many different ways to help people, systems analysis, determining how a system should work and how changes in conditions, operations, and the environment will affect outcomes. Let's say, for example, the classroom is a small, dark place. Then maybe they will ask for windows. If they can't put windows, maybe they will bring in mirrors and they'll put special lighting. They'll put some bright, cheerful colors. And that way the students in the classroom don't feel like it's a small, dark place. So understanding what the requirements are of the students and then making the environment and other conditions change to maximally support the students. Systems evaluation, identifying measures or indicators of systems performance and the actions needed to improve or correct performance relative to the goals of the system. Let us say the mathematics class is in the hour after lunch break. All the students are sleepy a little bit, right? So the mathematics teacher may decide in all the classes that are after the lunch break, for the first 5 minutes, I will make the students stand and do some, baski dandal kind of thing. Just lift your arms, or, I'll make them stand and say something funny, interesting, for the first 5 minutes. So then they're all awake and alert. Now they can do mathematics. Or I will interrupt the class. So just changing the system to get the maximum out of that hour, right? Persuading others to change their minds or behavior. This is a very tricky one. It is a very hard one. And it is, if a teacher is successful in doing this, then they're a teacher supreme. Wouldn't you agree? I think so. Their work styles, the job requires integrity, being honest and ethical. It requires adaptability and flexibility, being open to change and to considerable variety in the workplace. It requires self-control, maintaining composure, keeping emotions in check, controlling anger, avoiding aggressive behavior, even in very difficult situations. So there's a lot of reframing going on, right? It requires concern for others, being sensitive to others' needs and feelings, and being understanding and helpful on the job. It requires dependability, being reliable, responsible, showing up every day for work and not missing days, and not, you need to cover the syllabus like you promised the other teachers and the principal and the parents and the students. It requires cooperation, high stress tolerance, and persistence in the face of obstacles. It requires initiative to take on responsibilities and challenges. It requires social orientation, and it requires an orientation towards achievement and effort, and encouraging the best out of students. Attention to detail, right? Analytical thinking, leadership, independence. You have to create your own curriculum and your own plan. It can't be the same as another teacher's. Innovation, creativity, and alternative types of thinking. So there's a lot here, and these are all transferable skills. Even one of them is a transferable skill. I mean, each one as one. So it's one of the greatest jobs, not for no reason. It's one of the greatest jobs because of all of these reasons, right? Just take social orientation, right? A public relations company can hire a teacher because they're socially oriented. They know what students are thinking. They know what other people are thinking. They're constantly in touch with people and how they're thinking, how they're acting, or when they behave like this, how are they thinking, and so on and so forth, right? If you take attention to detail, right? What is a job that requires attention to detail? It could be a quality control job. It could be a quality assurance job. It could be a writing job. It could be a proofreading or an editorial job. There are so many. It could be an investigative journalism job, right? I mean, there are so many jobs that require very serious attention to detail, leadership, independence, innovation, right? Each one of these is a transferable, massive transferable skill. So again, remuneration, we talked about it's being about 61,000 to 77,000, depending on the degrees and the experience. And we talked about the low being in the 36,000 range and the high being in the 97 to 99,000 range, depending on the state. And the job outlooks. So in the pre-elementary and secondary schools, they were expected to increase at an average rate, but demand was going to be greatest for people with expertise in science, math, and bilingual education in high school, right? So this was about 5% annually up to 2028. Preschool teachers is 7%. So the United States government is actually paying for schools for children starting from the age of 3. School normally starts at the age of 6. But they are now paying for because these things impact women's employability and their career paths and the heights that they can reach. If they don't have supportive childcare at the preschool level, then these mothers are not going to be able to reach their maximum career potential or whatever they want to accomplish. So 7% for preschool teachers, because now the government is paying for those centers as well. And the states for teaching jobs, Georgia, Texas, Arizona, and Nevada. Smallest state in the Northwest, which is Washington State, Oregon, and others. Teachers willing to move and licensed in multiple subjects will enjoy more job opportunities than teachers licensed in only one subject and unwilling to relocate, and so on. Where are teachers super well respected and where are they not? So teachers in China, Malaysia, and Taiwan enjoy the highest status. But teachers in Brazil, Israel, and Italy are languishing at the tail end of the teacher status index. And this was a study by the National Institute of Economic and Social Research and the Varkey Foundation. And UK teachers fared better than average, but not as well as teachers in China, where a staggering 81% said they believed students respected their teachers. The international average was just 36%. Remember, in a country in which teachers are respected, the country does very well, the country is prosperous, and the students do very well, and the future of the country is bright. Respondents in Europe and South America showed higher levels of pessimism about whether students respected teachers. Asia, including countries like South Korea and Singapore, had a stronger culture of respect. Students in Asian countries tend to score top marks in international tests because of the extra respect given to teachers was important factor in attracting talented staff as well as attentive pupils. Teachers' perceived status was assessed by asking the teachers if they would encourage their own children to go into the teaching profession. For respondents in China, India, and Ghana, the answer was a resounding yes. Yes, I will tell my child to become a teacher also, said the teachers of these three countries. But in some countries, a majority said they would actively discourage their children from becoming teachers. And these countries were Russia, Israel, and Japan. And we can go on. And I think now I have some of the slides on healthcare. But I was wondering, just one second. Vivek, yes, Vivek ji, I'm on with Gulshan Sharma ji. I have to call you back unless it's an emergency. You've called me 4 times. I'll call you back. Yeah, thank you. Sorry about that. I just had to make sure it was not an emergency. So we have a few slides on elder care and on healthcare in the US versus the Commonwealth. And I will touch on this and we'll get into more detail as well the next time. So this was a study done by the Commonwealth countries, which are all countries which were formerly under the British Empire. And they studied 5 domains: access to care, care process, administrative efficiency, equity, and healthcare outcomes. So did they have a neighborhood healthcare center or clinic where they could go? Did they have a proper way in which they could be taken care of if they had a disease or a condition? And was it quick, or did they have to wait for 3, 4, 6 hours to go see a doctor or to get the care they needed? Did everybody get treated equally? And then what was the result of the care that was given? And this was drawn from the Commonwealth Fund of International Surveys conducted in each country and administrative data of the OECD, as it is called, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, and the WHO. The top performing countries overall were Norway, the Netherlands, and Australia. The United States ranked last overall in the Commonwealth, despite spending far more of its gross domestic product on healthcare. The US ranked last on access to care, administrative efficiency, equity, and healthcare outcomes, but second on measures of care process. What that means is, if somebody comes into an emergency room because, let us say, they're bleeding from a leg wound, let us say some tree branch fell on their leg and they're bleeding and they're having pain, okay? Now, is there a clinic nearby? The US is last. Does it take long for them to be seen? Again, US is in the last. Are they treated equally if they're Indian, black, white, Chinese, Hispanic, whatever? US is last. Is the outcome good? US is last. But is the process good? That is, as soon as they come in, they're given a tag on their hand, their name and whatever is recorded, then they're given a history and physical form to fill out. That is, they're very good at putting it on the patient so the thing gets done. this is called the care process. Okay. There's also electronic health record, which the healthcare professionals we fill out. But the process is second in the world. Okay, so the process is good, but everything else, it is last. Okay, 4 features distinguish top performing countries from the United States. They provide universal coverage and remove cost barriers. That means everybody gets healthcare that as a universal right. And it doesn't matter whether you can afford it or not. The reason for this US ranking the lowest in all these criteria, it's not universally that everybody gets the poor quality care. It is money dependent. This is a country for rich people. If you have money, you can get very good care in all the different criteria. But even with good money, if you don't have good judgment, you could be swindled. So coming back to this, universal coverage at a certain high level is given in all these other countries like Norway, Netherlands, and Australia. And people don't have to take their wallet and put money out. Okay. Number 2, they invest in primary care systems to ensure that high value services are equitably available in all communities to all people. So what are they doing? They're making sure that everybody gets good primary care. So they have good primary care doctors who are seeing patients regularly. They see them every 3 months. They see them every month if they have chronic medical illnesses. They see them every 6 months to a year if they're healthy young people. But if there's any change or any problem, immediately the primary care physician is the one who finds the gastroenterologist or the orthopedic surgeon or whoever it is, the specialist, to take care of the patient. So the burden is not on the specialist, and at the same time, everybody gets equal care because it is the doctor that's making that decision to escalate their care, not some paper pushing person, different, who can exert prejudices if they're not trained not to. They reduce administrative burdens that divert time, efforts, and spending from health improvement efforts. So they are not putting the patients through multiple hoops to get the care they need. And they invest in social services for children and working age adults. So where the family is not able to provide all of the security and the foundation of stability, which eventually leads to disease, as we all know, then social services are there to provide the gap that the family is not able to. So then they don't have as much disease problem either. So the US healthcare for elders, older adults are sicker, they're more economically vulnerable despite having Medicare, which is anybody over the age of 65 in the US has free medical coverage for all their health problems. But they may have a little gap in the beginning. I think certain amount has to be met and they have to pay maybe 20% of all their bills, something like that. But but most of their financial healthcare costs are paid for by the United States government, and that's called Medicare. Even so, US seniors struggle to afford care and face more financial barriers than 10 other countries. There are higher rates of emergency department use, more care coordination problems, and more medical errors. So this is a very significant problem. Again, talking about elder care in America, some older adults have diligently prepared for the future. They've purchased long-term care insurance when it was still affordable, meaning when somebody is in the 40s and they start paying towards their long-term healthcare insurance, it is much cheaper than when they buy it when they're 70 plus, if that makes sense, right? They paid the premiums even as they continue to rise. This is not the norm. Most adults have no plan and they assume that Medicare will cover all their healthcare costs. Medicare does not cover the long-term daily care, whether in-home or in a full-time nursing facility, that millions of aging Americans require. For that, you need to pay out of pocket. And in 2020, the annual cost for a private room in a nursing home was $105,000, or if you wanted a home health care aid, it was $55,000. If somebody has less than $2,000, then they qualify for Medicaid, which provides healthcare, including home healthcare, for more than 18 million poor Americans. You can imagine the care. It is paid for by the government. Okay, the government pays this home health aid or they pay the nursing home, but you can imagine the quality of care is pretty low. Even if they qualify, the waiting list tops 800,000 people and has an average wait time of more than 3 years. The US population is aging. There are 46 million older adults, and by 2050, that number will be 90 million. Between 2020 and 2030, that number is projected to increase by 18 million. This means by 2030, which is 8 years away, 1 in 5 Americans will be 65 years or older. Whereas in India, it is 1 in 14 will be 60 years or older. The issue of aging is especially important in rural areas because that's where the older people are living. Older adults live disproportionately in rural areas. 1/4 of them lives in rural areas, and so because of the hectic, frenetic pace of life in some of America's urban areas. So the reason I'm mentioning this is because here's where our teachers, we can give them certifications in online elder care, and they can be present with them on a Zoom or some sort of online a platform where they monitor their medication intake, they monitor their mobility issues. If the elderly person needs some education about their medication or their next doctor visit, what should they talk to the doctor about? Or what is it that they need help with? Do they need their groceries ordered? Are they missing milk or something in their house? And this person can coordinate their care with them. It can be done remotely, it can be done online, it can also be done here in person, which we welcome. We really hope that we get India's teachers in America. We want it to happen now, not wait for it until it's a crisis. We want India's teachers here. We want India's teachers to not only teach, if they want, we want them to be involved in elder care as well. They can do it remotely. If they're in a city, like in a big city like Houston, Texas, they can take care of elderly adults remotely in smaller towns. And they can do it online by Zoom, and they can monitor their medications, they can monitor them for falls, they can provide companionship, they can provide them education about their health, about their doctor visits, what they should ask, what answers were given the previous time, what follow-up results should they check on. They can inform their family members about the results of these doctor visits. They can potentially even accompany the adults on their doctor visits remotely. So the elderly person has their phone and they have the Zoom app open, and the doctor and the patient are communicating. And if something has to be reminded, like a prescription refill or an X-ray or a referral to another doctor, then the caregiver can mention that to the doctor if the elderly person is forgetting it. They can make a list of the things that they need, maybe groceries. They can ask them what all you need: bread, you need milk, you need eggs, what is it that you need, and help order it for them. There are so many ways in which our teachers are needed in America. I mean, I cannot even begin to describe all the ways. And in addition, they can also teach people who are not necessarily older, elderly, people over 65. Here in America, many of them are also vital. And many of them want to know about computers. They want to know how they can plug their computer. How can they have a tablet and see their grandchildren in another city? How can they do exercises at home? How can they learn about computers and learn software, learn how to write a book, maybe connect with other elders? There are a million things that they need to be taught. And so this digital literacy thing can be done as well for healthy elders, of whom there are plenty, by our teachers. I'll just give an example. Medicare has 53 million people, and all 53 million have at least one chronic health condition. So just think about that. That's quite a significant thing. But there are only 7 or so, 8 million of those 53 million that have 6 or more chronic medical conditions that cost $500 billion in healthcare. So the other 46 million, they are costing the other $500 billion. So $1 trillion of Medicare expense annually on their healthcare. The 7 or 8 million with 6 conditions or more. Imagine those people need caregiver maybe 24 hours a day, because they have so many conditions in order to keep them out of the hospital, to keep them safe, to keep them well cared for so they don't get sick. Oh, do you have the sniffles today? Let me call the doctor, make sure you're on a medicine. And if you have, whatever side effects, I will call the doctor and make sure you get that. So there is an ongoing need for this type of care, and it pays well, $55,000 for a home health aide. And if it's done remotely, if it's half of that, that's a big plus for them too. So yeah, that was basically what I wanted to touch on as well today.
Thank you very much. Sorry, please go ahead. Please go ahead. Please go ahead. I was just saying,
there are certifications for elder care. If you're physically here in the US, you can take certifications for home health care aide and home health caregiver. There are many universities that provide certificate education courses. And there is also, from what I'm seeing, online elder care certification. And I will get some more details on this. I was not able to find it on the single website that listed it, even though I looked for it. So I want to see if there are other institutions that are providing it other than this one, which when I go in, I'm not able to see the exact certificate. So I will keep looking and I will find that for you. So if you can do your teachers and that, and we can help you set it up and you can get into online elder care here in the US if you'd like, sitting right there in India. Or migrate to the United States and be a teacher and be a home health care aide or an online elder care giver or care provider. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Now, ma'am, if you could kindly close your presentation, then we could come over here. Yeah, I could see you have got so much to share, such a rich treasure you have collected. We have come up to 29 slides. And there's a long queue which was waiting over there down below. I think we got to do justice next week once again with this. Now, few things were coming to my mind before we wind up. I just wish to bring to your kind notice. When we are focusing on teachers, educators, trainers, coach, mentors, counselors, anybody, you have given wonderful points over here, intrapersonal analysis, medical part also to be learned, then sports activities by teacher, digital skills, teamwork, then yoga and physical activities, invisible benefits for being a teacher. Then you have talked about the psychological part, which is a huge part. That is something very, very important. And then when you have given the supporting, to the elderly as well as to the children. So teacher multitasking, when we talk about, I think next week, if we can zero down, let us work out a strategy that initially let there be even 5 best teachers, 5 teachers. Let's focus with a small number, 5 people. Services are being given in various forms.
Yes, sir.
We are not physically moving to the different country. But from here, digital way, we are imparting the education.
Excellent. We can do that.
Let's focus on those countries which are less developed. So what would happen is the teachers from India would have more confidence initially to take on that kind of a task. Secondly, which comes to my mind, if teachers have to physically move, once again, we should take those countries where from they gain confidence, they start in a humble way. Number 3, anybody who aspires to come to America, they got to be really multitasking and they got to be very flexible in their approach and they got to handle each and every situation very professionally. Coming to the last point, if any of the corporate houses from America setting up any kind of a venture in India. Let's take an example. There is a Bill Gates Foundation. They are presently having huge employment being generated because they are talking about climate change. They're working on to that. And that project money has come to India. So that means the research, whatsoever is being done, is like a services exports. So teachers involved in research, in compilation, in synthesizing. That could also be another area. If we focus on some leading foundations, those are investing in India.
Yes, sir.
Those are investing in India because they find either it is a philanthropic work or it is a win-win situation, business to business, but they are getting more economical manpower in India and they have to pay less. So I'm open to all the suggestions. I would request you next week, if you could kindly focus on two, and during the week we will discuss also, and we will take the vision forward. I'll take your guidance, and next Sunday, let's take this journey forward. And you have given beautiful points to us. We have made the note down of all that. Even elders, while being cared by these teachers, they are also being given the digital literacy so that the elders can see their grandchildren and all. That was very touching, which you made a point. I think there are so many segments which you have listed. It depends. Multi-layers are there. It is all your competence. How anybody can. Yes.
I don't think anywhere in the world, because of technology, that there will ever be a job shortage, ever.
Yes. Yes.
I don't think anywhere in the world that there will be a lack of jobs or a lack of, need for skilled people.
Only the nature of work will change.
The nature of work will change, and everybody will need to have ongoing lifelong learning in order to keep up with the advances in technology. So a life in which we were high after our bachelor's degree, or that was probably in the 50s, then definitely by the time we were in the 60s and 70s, people said having a master's degree was a great thing. Then in the 80s and 90s, people talked about PhD, and then, then entrepreneurship, postdoctoral education. And now what I can say is our quest for learning will never end. That is one key takeaway of today's session, if I may humbly and respectfully suggest, is that all adults, for their benefit and advantage, must engage in lifelong education and learning. Our country needs to have a lifelong learning policy. Our country needs to have certain areas in which the lifelong learning is mandatory. And our country needs to have certain areas where lifelong learning is optional but rewarded. And the lifelong learning cannot be an education that is only available to people who can afford to pay for it. It has to be free. And lifelong learning has to be easily available for even the farmer with a cell phone anywhere. And ideally, it should be in the Digital University of India. That is where I think all lifelong learning modules should be there. It should complement and complete everything that is missing in school education, things like health literacy, digital literacy, financial literacy, relationship well-being and literacy, family and society well-being, how to be civic literacy, how to be a good citizen of the country, how to be a good citizen of the city, state, how to be a good member of your family, these are all life skills that are not present or taught in education. When to start saving, how to save, where to put the money. See, these are all things, and they can be small micro-learning modules. They can be 6 minutes long to at the most, I think no more than 5 minutes. That's the extent of, and depending if somebody does 10 modules a day, the government can give them points. And if you collect 10,000 points in a year, you can go to the ration store maybe and get free rice or sugar, whatever it is. It has to have some benefit to the person, some sort of reward system, or I don't think punishments work, but it has to have some sort of reward system. And if you see one person has learned all of the financial modules, they can start training or answering questions or be incorporated into the digital university where they are answering questions of students in those modules. So there are many ways of tracking this. Other countries have a very sophisticated lifelong learning educational policy. And it starts with our current elders and our current teachers. These are the people who must be first exposed and be brought into the lifelong learning infrastructure. Then our students and all that will naturally follow.
Wonderful. Thank you, ma'am. You've got such a vast experience and such a knowledge reservoir. There is so much to learn from you. There's so much to pick up from you. Now you have given new dimension. Let us study one or two countries' such policy so that we can relate it. Kindly, I will take up with you during the week. I will discuss with you, and we will plan it out. Our deep gratitudes and thanks to you. Have a wonderful Sunday. Yes.
Thank you. One more thing, one last thing, sir. Nobody should be afraid of migrating to America. This is not in any way, okay, there are great people and great things have been done, but there is no level of greatness that cannot be reached or exceeded by our people. I just want to say a lot of these points that I've recited, that our current Indian teachers are doing without even realizing that they're doing it. They don't even know that they're doing all these things. Here, somebody has gone to the trouble of listing everything. So it looks like it is fantastic. No, the gap is only 20%. It's not 80%. That's what I want to highlight that point.
Wow.
The knowledge gap is only 20%. It's not 80%. So that's the important thing. Yeah, thank you.
Look forward to having you next week once again, ma'am. Thank you very much for your valuable time. And with deep regards and gratitude, thanking you.